Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. This is our second conversation, and as we mentioned before the break, this next one is all about exploring Belize's role in global maritime development. We are joined this morning by two representatives of the Belize Port Authority. Here with us is Ivana Slusher. She is the Project and Quality Officer. And also here with us returning as well as Edmund Stain, this time in his work role as the Technical Advisor. And as we mentioned, both representing the Belize Port Authority. Guys, thank you so much for joining us and welcome. Welcome back, I guess I should say.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
So there's quite a few activities taking place over at the Port Authority, but this all comes under the umbrella of highlighting the work that you guys do in maritime development, and of course sharing a bit more information with our viewers as well on why this is important. Talk to us about the Port Authority and its connection to maritime development.
Well, as you know, the Port Authority takes on a role as a coastal state for the country. So there is the Marble, which is the flag state, and then there's the coastal state, which governs all the local operations. You know, right now there's a great transition taking place towards development within Belize, within maritime. As you can see, you know, the port has just been bought over by the government, so they're working on great plans to develop that. Also on the local end, you know, we are, as technical people, we're working on bolstering our compliance structure, you know, so that we, from a regulatory standpoint, operational standpoint, that we are operating on a level that is on a global level playing field. You know, we're trying to make sure that Belize is compliant in all our ways. We have a big audit coming up. It's the IMSAS audit coming up in November. So everybody is in high gear trying to make sure that our regulations are robust, our guidelines and procedures are in place. We have internal audits so we can make sure that we're working on a level of compliance, that our staff is up to a certain standard in terms of their compliance level. You know, we have a system that could be measured and reports back to us how it's performing.
You know, there are so many ways we could take this conversation when we look at maritime and even the Port Authority, if we're being honest. But I think where I want to start is the contribution that the maritime aspect of what is taking place in this country has to Belize's economy. There are so many different jobs and fields of work that takes place, and even when we think of maritime and women involvement, that's another area that we can also look into. But speak to the economical development that maritime work brings to this country.
Well, you know, a global trade is run by maritime, you know, so there's so much great potential in Belize. So that's why this symposium that we're doing and celebrating World Maritime Day is very important, because we need hands on deck. You know, this sector is growing and we are now opening up and engaging persons so that our work is more efficient. We have more roles that we're not fulfilling within Belize, so we need persons to come in and take these opportunities to know exactly what's going on in terms of developing yourself, getting these scholarships, going out and studying maritime. And we want to encourage all the young people to get into this sector. You know, I always give an example for Singapore. When I went to the airport, you know, and I was speaking to the high-level persons in that country, they were speaking to me about how their port sector drove their economy and caused it to boom, just through making a connection with the Chinese ships that were coming in and refueling these ships. Now, one of their ports, as an example, is fully automated, and it produces over $4 billion per year.
Wow.
One port facility.
I think we just have so much potential that we
How many billions do we?
Right?
There is great potential in the sector, you know, and I've seen the Prime Minister's office looking into investing into the port that we have now, and knowing the magnitude of investment that they're making, I know that it's going to be a significant transshipment point that they're trying to develop. You know, the only thing is for us to connect to the Pacific so that we could be a major transshipment hub over that side, and we could rival the likes to the Panama Canal and these places, you know. So there's great opportunity within Belize, and we've been led right now by a board of directors and a newly installed ports commissioner that is so enthusiastic about driving the economy and making sure that the port sector is relevant. You know, they're looking into creating maritime traffic highways so that it's safer to navigate within Belize and the reef system don't get destroyed. You know, so these are some of the big projects that are coming on really soon, and I'm very excited about the changes that are made. So we want to encourage people to come out to the symposium so they can see what's going on and be a part of this revolutionary change.
What's the theme for this year's World Maritime Day?
So this year, the theme under the IMO is our ocean, our obligation, our opportunity. So each year the IMO releases a theme that the country, or internationally it's focused on, and Belize choose to focus on it on World Maritime Day as well. With our expo, it's geared around that theme for this year. So personally, you can interpret it however you'd like, but I feel that, you know, we're, like Mr. Steen said, we're so connected to the ocean. Whatever happens out there in the seas and the ocean also affects us. So
Yes.
we're connected all over the world. And with that, we have an obligation to make sure that our ecosystem, our marine life is all protected. And with that, we have a lot of opportunities that are open. I know people hear maritime and they think about shipping, but there's more than that. There's so much opportunities out there within the sector for young people to introduce themselves and that's
tap
what,
into.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most interesting part about working in maritime?
There's so much, but I would definitely, it's such a hidden jewel. I wasn't familiar with what was going on within the maritime industry, but I would definitely have to say it's the amount of potential it has. Like, you are introduced to something new every time, every day. It's something that you learn every single time. It's new material. You can never learn everything. So I'm just excited that there's so much to explore within the sector.
Now, the average man on the street may very well say, oh, the Belize Port Authority, and they might just think to themselves, okay, well, you register boats and you, but when you say maritime, it encompasses something
So much.
far
Yeah.
greater. Could you break that down for our viewing audience today? What is maritime? What does it entail? You know, why should they come and take on those initiatives and those scholarships?
And is
that
it
you
more than
spoke
just
about?
stevedores?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for sure, there's a vast sector. You know, one of the things that is most significant to me, that you asked me, Savannah, I wanted to answer that question, is how impactful the sector is and how vast the stakeholders are. Like, there's a lot of people that works within the maritime space, you know. So if you think about Belize alone, how dependent we are on our maritime services in terms of our fishery, in terms of our tourism, in terms of our commerce and ships coming into Belize. Now we're getting into yachts, you know, thanks to the Belize Tourism Board for driving that forward. Now they're looking into how we can attract these super yachts and make Belize one of the hubs for yachts to come in, you know. So there's great significant growth. I mean, the sector is vast because it goes from our international registration of ships, which our obligation comes from the International Maritime Organization. Belize is a signatory to that. So we have signed on to international conventions, and now we are implementing those. We implement those internationally on our ships, and at the BPA, we must implement all our international obligations locally, which include managing our port facilities, making sure that they're up to ISPS and other standards, making sure that our waterways are safe in terms of our own regulations, looking out for safety, life jackets, you're navigating properly, you have your license, you have your lights, you're not operating overload, you know, and your other persons are safe. And also, yeah, so monitoring and control all traffic within the maritime ways, and making sure they're lighted, making sure that we have beacons out there so people know where to navigate. You know, make sure that we do a hydrographic surveys. So now we have a hydrographic survey unit that is going to lead the charge towards the Maritime Highways project. You know, so there's a lot of things happening within the port sector, you know, that and even the maritime sector on a whole, you know.
There's a whole other world out there.
I'm telling you, and I'm sure resource mobilization is one of the other things as well. I think you all do, like the registration for what is it that what services can the Belizean public get from Belize Port Authority?
Well, they register ship agents, so the other agents that manage the ships that are in. We do marine surveys in terms of the commercial vessels that are water taxis. They have to have marine surveyors to go in. We monitor and regulate all the port facilities within the country, the Port of Big Creek, the Belize Port of Belize, you know, and all the other ports that are being developed. We even manage the development of new ports. So we are part of the NEAC to making sure that everything is up to par in terms of the standards. You know, we monitor the ships that come to Belize to make sure that they're up to international standards. So our port state control officers go out there and make sure that they check for compliance, and they could report back to the international community how these ships are performing when they come to Belize. We also do maritime traffic. So we have a vessel traffic station that looks at all the ships coming in, making sure that the pilots are getting on board and everything. We also work with the stevedores and other persons, right? So, so we also encourage them how to get things done. But moving forward, you know, we have to look at more upskilling. You know, I want to encourage this conversation because it's a conversation that we don't want to have. But all ports globally are automating using gantry cranes, and it's more safer. You know, you've seen all the incidents and accidents we had in terms of persons dying at the port facility. These things should not be happening. No, there are port facilities that are opening that don't even have any persons working on the deck.
I think the challenge that you guys would face with that is job security. A lot of people will say it takes away my bread and butter. How do you respond to that?
We shouldn't look at it that way, because there's always what we call the just transition, you know, moving into upskilling these persons. So instead of climbing up to these ladders and hooking up these containers, you'll be working behind a screen, working on you know, taking care of these things remotely. You know, so it's not about being afraid of the technology or being afraid of competing, because we will never compete, you know, having such a significant investment if we don't do it in a way that is more efficient and effective. We must be able to move thousands of boxes per day. You know, if we can't get to that level, then we can't get to the $1 billion bracket. You know what I mean? So
that's a good way of putting
it. A good one, Mr. Stain. And when I'm listening, you're talking about upscaling, and we're talking about yachts now, and we're talking about tourism and the boost that the BTB has offered. But when we think about more, we think about traffic. And when we think about our maritime, you know, we have a lot of corals and other, you know, living things in our waters, or waters itself, in terms of protecting that. Now, the question is, how does the Belize Port Authority ensure, or how does it help Belize to balance the environmental growth along with the maritime growth?
Well, that is why, you know, having projects such as the marine traffic highways is very important, because this will demarcate all the entrances within the reef. It will make sure that the vessels know exactly where to traverse. We have lighted signs showing them this nautical mile, this direction. I was in Kikaka. When you're in Kikaka, you got another sign telling you, hey, you're here, move this direction, go within these buoys, and you're there. We have swim zones that will be demarcated so that persons know how to use the waterways. You know, they have idle speed coming in, so the users of the space, in terms of the persons on paddle boards and swimming and enjoying the space, they're not affected by boats that are trafficking. You know, so we minimize the risk of having these type of collisions. You know, I believe as long as we can manage it that way and work along with the sector for the NGOs and know how the marine sector is mapped out, we could encompass all of that and ensure that our marine waterways are safe, and we could increase traffic. I don't believe in increasing traffic right now, because we need to make sure that we have our waterways properly demarcated. It's in the GPS for everyone that comes in, register with UKHO, and we have our stakeholder involvement taking place in terms of the usage of these areas.
Well, let's talk about the events set to take place to commemorate World Maritime Day. We know there's an expo and a symposium. When are the dates, and who can get involved?
Well, every year the Belize Port Authority makes an effort to honor the World Maritime Day. And so with that, every year we do our expo. So this year we do our expo usually it's at the Belize Port Authority headquarters, but we decided to move it indoors this year. Mother Nature, you know. Like,
I was going to say thank you, girl. What? Outside?
Yeah, the rain. So we're having it at the SA Auditorium this year on the 25th of September, and it starts at 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Now, we've invited a lot of schools countrywide to participate. I mean, this is the time that we want to capture our younger students, our teens, our preteens, to let them, you know, become exposed. I wish someone came to my class and introduced something like this. I think that really would have sparked my interest, because I wasn't too familiar or sure what route I wanted to take. And I stepped in at this age, and I'm so intrigued. So I'm sure that I would have been far more intrigued when I was younger.
You could have prepared sooner.
I could have prepared.
So that's next Thursday.
It's next Thursday at the SA Auditorium. Like I said, we've invited a lot of students. They're the teachers, principals, if they want to attend as well. It's open to the public. We've invited a lot of our stakeholders, so there will be booths with different stakeholders under the maritime industry. We have Coast Guard there, we have our shipping lines, our shipping agents, BC, and some of our sponsors as well. So there's going to be a lot happening. We have panelists that are going to be, or maritime professionals. These are panelists, they are maritime professionals that are going to be discussing a lot on what's happening in the sector and what's bound to happen, and how you can join.
So that's the expo.
That's the expo. Well, the expo and the symposium, they're both
the same day.
Yes,
okay.
The same day.
So the panel discussion would be the symposium.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So it's the same day. What we want to do, because like I said, we want to expose this more to the audience, to our youth, to our kids, and so we're gonna have the symposium because we want to launch it on this day. We have idea in mind to visit the classes and you know, bring this to them, and a lot of things that are in the works that we're planning to do as once the expo completes. There's still going to be progress that's going to be made in the future. So it doesn't stop at the expo. We still have a lot more planned to do, a lot more interactive events and materials that we could bring out and try to engage everyone more.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we wind down the conversation, I want to give you guys an opportunity to encourage someone maybe tuning in that's still a little bit curious about maritime and how they could potentially fit into that. How would you sell this as an opportunity for persons to get involved, to explore it as a new career path?
Well, maritime is the backbone of Belize. Our oceans, everything, the ocean is probably 80% of the world. So this has nowhere to go. We're only getting better from here. We're only thinking of introducing e-shipping. We're thinking of doing a cleaner shipping and decarbonizing the whole maritime sector, because of course with shipping and with moving through the waters, you think maybe I don't want it to damage the waterways. I don't want, you know, our ecosystem, our beautiful barrier reef. But we are moving ahead, and we have international standards to keep up with. And so there are so many opportunities that are currently here and that are going to be presenting itself that, you know, the possibilities are endless. There isn't only working on the ships, but you can be a maritime engineer, a marine engineer, or work in logistics. And, you know, there's so much that you can do. And we also plan to collaborate with international institutions and bringing scholarships so that our students can go out there, because it's unfortunate we don't really have a lot of institutions that can really set the foundation or you know, help you to reach where you want to be. So we do collaborate with international sectors as well, and we're thinking of introducing scholarships and have a couple of our students, hopefully starting next year, go out to these institutions and get the education that they need.
All right.
Is there any current assistance that is offered to persons who want to study maritime?
Yeah, maritime, you can study maritime for free. You know, as long as you're involved with maritime, you have a track record of doing some work within maritime. You know, you have some experience. You could, and you're endorsed. You definitely could learn for free. What I wanted to say in terms of to piggyback on what Mr. Ivana was saying, very good, but we need more hands on deck. You know, we can't do all the work. You know, if you would take a snapshot into the day of my life and Mr. Ivana's life, and the amount of committees we have to be a part of, and the amount of planning that we're doing right now and execution, you know, this is a very critical phase. And as long as we pass this phase and we go to implementation, we won't be able to do all the work. So in these type of drives, we try to recruit personnel, you know, young people, get on board. Let's do this, you know.
These recruits are volunteers you're talking about, or you're talking about employed persons for the Belize Port Authority?
Well, I could say I personally started maritime as a volunteer. You know, I went in as a person. I make not volunteer. I make like $150 a week, I believe. It was like a temporary working. Yeah, you know, I went there and started to drive boats, and I started to get involved. And I became a vessel traffic officer, Port State, you know, so my career path was accelerated because I was interested in the work that we were doing. You know, so my life has changed because of maritime. Like when I came out of school from UB, a month after I started work at the Port Authority, you know, at that time, and that was a different level. You know, when I went to Port State, I fell in love with how dynamic the sector was. You know, there was so much to learn, you know, so with that, I understand now that I'm in a position now to come and assist and lead the charge in setting this up. So in setting it up, I can see where, you know, we don't have enough personnel, we don't have enough skilled personnel, you know, to do this. So we put authority in other sectors, including the flag state. We're trying to see how they could send persons out to study and qualify. And it's a vast sector, because you could be, as Ms. Ivana rightly said, a naval architect. You could be a marine surveyor. You could be an engineer. You could be an auditor, you know, you could be a trainer, you know, so there's so many things to do, and we don't have enough of each thing. Like I can't be all these things, you know, and other persons, you know, there's only a few of us in maritime that is at the expert level, you know, so we need to get more persons up to the expert level so that we could branch off and diversify this work, and then we can delegate some of the things that we're involved with.
I think that's why the expo will be important, to have young people understand that these are available for them to tap into. Well, before we take our next break, I want to include you guys in our motivational moment this morning. And this morning's motivational quote comes from Sir Padre Pio, and it goes like this: "Faith guides even through dark moments." Again, faith guides even through dark moments.
And you know what the good book says? Just a small as a mustard seed moves that mountain. So even in the dark times, you could move that mountain. That's beautiful. Thank you, Sabrina.
All right. We take a next break now. And when we come back, the conversation switches into passing down the spirit of patriotism.